This is one that I made you watch.
Yeah.
And I kept saying the words, "You're not ready for this. You're not prepared for this. What you're about to see will shock you." And you didn't believe me until you actually watched it. And that's Batman Ninja.
This movie you are not prepared for.
It's insane. It's a Batman anime done by the people that do JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. And it's crazy. It's so off the wall. Because I think people, it's very controversial. I've seen it. Either people love it or they absolutely hate it. I love it because it's one of the stupidest, craziest movies I've ever seen.
Welcome to Idiot Block, a comedic podcast critiquing, discussing, and analyzing the media industry through reviews, debates, and historical deep dives.
Hello, everyone. I'm David Yanish. Welcome to another episode of Idiot Plot. Joining me today is Justin Neitzel.
Aloha.
Yep, Alex Overall is off this week, so it's just me and Justin talking today. And because of that, we're going to talk about something that we can't talk about very often with Alex on the podcast, and that's animation. Specifically, we're going to talk about animation that's really important to the two of us, and that's DC Comics animation.
Basically, stuff we grew up watching.
Yep. Mostly, what we're going to talk about today is a lot of like the animated original movies that they've made in the past, probably like 15 years. There's, of course, everyone knows the animated series and stuff, but those are so big, we might save those for other episodes. So we're going to talk about mostly the animated original movies going forward. But I'm sure Batman the animated series and other Bruce Timm stuff will come up because that actually is important.
Yeah, there's like, 3 or 4 of them that are Bruce Timm verse kind of ones?
Bruce Timm was involved with a lot of them, but the degree to which he was involved is questionable for the vast majority of them. Mm-hmm. He does it as an EP, but really how much work did he do is kind of questionable.
Yeah.
Because he can direct, he can do designs for a lot of them, but I do believe he was involved. Yeah, it says here that Bruce Timm, who people don't know, he's the godfather of DC animation. Dude with Paul Dini created Batman the animated series and basically served as the creative head of DC cartoons for over 2 decades, I think.
And had pretty much his hands in creating like Harley Quinn and the new origin of Mr. Freeze.
Dude's one of the most important names in comics. Most people probably don't know. And he's really good. I do think arguably that Bruce Timm has kind of lost his touch.
I would agree.
As he's gotten older. And I think part of that is I think he's a much better creative mind than he is a producer mind. But that's just my opinion. Mm-hmm. But you'll probably hear his name come up a lot in this discussion. I want to start, though, by just saying that like I was not a big DC Comics fan until I was a teenager when I saw The Dark Knight. And I got like really into Batman. Like overnight, I wanted to watch everything Batman. And one of the first things I watched, so this kind of talking about discussion, is I picked up really soon after it came out on Blu-ray. I in the same day, I picked up both Batman Under the Red Hood and Justice League The New Frontier. And those were the first DC animated movies of this. Because I mean, when you think of direct-to-video animation, you think of cheap, awful garbage that's ugly and poorly made that you get at like grocery stores. You know, that's like knocking off other movies.
I mean, that's kind of how Frontier looks at times. But that's the style they're going for.
Yep. But DC, for the most part, their animation, especially the direct-to-video stuff, is really freaking well done. At least for direct-to-video animation is concerned.
Well, that was always a thing. Like, Marvel has the cinematic universe. DC has the animated cinematic universe down, basically.
Yeah. DC's weird where DC struggles with live action, but they nail animation. And Marvel is, although we shit on Marvel, they're doing better with live action than DC is, but their animation
sucks.
Has generally speaking left a lot to be desired. Now, like, I love X-Men the animated series and some of their other newer stuff like Wolverine the X-Men and Avengers Earth by His Heroes were good. But their most recent stuff has, generally speaking, been terrible.
Yeah.
Like, consistently terrible. The animation is somehow worse than a lot of the new DC stuff, which we'll get to.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that.
And just seems cheap. I don't think Marvel has an animation studio. I think they basically shuttered most of it when stuff kind of started to fail.
I was going to say, I don't know if they're still running stuff on Disney that is Marvel animated.
If they are, it's reruns, because I don't believe that they currently have a show.
Last I saw, they were doing like
all done.
last I saw, I think they were doing stuff for Black Panther right around that when that came out. I thought.
I think that was part of like their Marvel show.
Yeah, but it's
their Avengers show. Their Avengers show like one of the seasons ran it into a Black Panther type show.
Yeah.
Yeah, Marvel Animation Studio seems to have been shuttered and replaced with some weird Marvel Studios animation company when Kevin Feige took over.
Which is probably what's lead to the What If.
Yeah, it looks like for animation for them, I mean, we're talking about DC. There's like a Disney Junior show that's currently going and a Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur show coming out next year. But for the most part, they've been done for over 2 years.
That makes sense. But anyways, back from our segue.
Anyway, I watched Batman Under the Red Hood, and
such a
that
good movie.
basically got me into DC animation because it hasn't aged the greatest, but at the time, like 10, 11 years ago, oh my god, that movie was mind-blowing.
Animation-wise or just story-wise? It doesn't hold up for you?
It doesn't hold up animation-wise for sure. Some of the voice acting also is kind of hokey now, and the story, considering what DC would eventually do, the story seems kind of Saturday morning cartoonish.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, you're kind of right there.
But at the time, and it's still a good movie.
Oh, yeah.
I wish they would have done more with it, like done more with that interpretation of the characters.
Oh, I agree. I mean, behind Conroy, I think Bruce Greenwood is probably my second favorite Batman.
I have him as third behind someone else who we'll get to later.
Then you have John DiMaggio as a Joker, which was
He gets shit on. He's really good.
Like, it's better than anything other than Mark Hamill. Like, he's probably the second best.
Him and Jeff Bennett, I don't think get enough credit for their Joker voices. I do like Jeff Bennett's.
I think the problem is just like, if it's not Mark Hamill, everyone like, oh, it's not good. It's like, it's good. It's different.
And hot take, unpopular opinion time. Mark Hamill's Joker isn't that great anymore.
No.
His voice kind of went, and he's not as good as he used to be.
Probably hasn't been good since Batman Beyond Return of the Joker.
I think he was good in Arkham City. I think it was the last, like...
Oh, yeah, Arkham City. Yeah, Arkham games were probably his last hurrah as being good.
But John DiMaggio is not bad. The movie itself, if you haven't seen it, it adapts the Jason Todd death storyline, and in the future him coming back. It's a really weird story for a one-off movie, but it works really well. It has a shockingly big voice cast too for a one-off movie, with Bruce Greenwood as Batman, Neil Patrick Harris as Dick Grayson Nightwing, Jensen Ackles as Red Hood, and freaking Jason Isaacs as Ra's al Ghul, or Ra's al Ghul, or whatever the heck he is in that particular one.
Yeah, the only voice one that kind of threw me off is Neil Patrick Harris as Nightwing.
Yeah, but he's still good.
Yeah, he's still good. It's just...
But that was the thing about these DC animated movies, I guess, going for a more general thing, is they started out like really good with really stylized animation, big voice casts, at least big for DC animation voice casts, big storylines that they adapted. Like they took classic comic book stories and made them into these big movies. And eventually they stopped doing that. And that to me is when you kind of see them go downhill. Because like Justice League, the New Frontier, which is the second one I bought, it's the second one that they made after Superman Doomsday. I really liked that movie until I read Darwin Cook's original graphic novel, DC the New Frontier, which is infinitely better. But the movie itself, it had something that a lot of other movies didn't have, especially Marvel. Even when Marvel's animation was good, it had style to it. It had like effort. It had a really good attempt made, which is what a lot of these old school ones had.
Yeah. One thing about New Frontier, I mean, I enjoyed it, but it's definitely not one of my favorites. And I get what they're going for the style, because that was basically the style of the graphic novel. I just didn't care too much for it.
It works better as a graphic novel.
I could definitely see that.
I mean, Darwin Cook's art style works really well with graphic novels. It flows super great. His use of page space is pretty amazing, and that's kind of why he was so good. Rest in peace, Darwin Cook. That's something that the movie just couldn't emulate, was his use of page space and flow with that.
Yeah, this is kind of a no-name cast. other than see Keith Davis and Neil
It's
Patrick
not
Harris
really
again.
TV.
Yeah.
Like David Boreanaz's huge. I mean, Bones, now SEAL Team. Kyle MacLachlan's really big on TV. Twin Peaks, Sex and the City, Lucy Lawless, who everyone has wanted to play Wonder Woman forever. Neil Patrick Harris, Jeremy Sisto. Like, if you watch TV, they're all big names.
Yeah, I wasn't a very big TV watcher, so.
But, I mean, it's a good movie, but that's the thing is, like, these movies eventually would peak. I mean, you had Batman Gotham Knight, which is an okay...
That's like a vignette kind of movie, ain't it? Where it's just a bunch of...
It's an anthology movie. It's not great.
It has moments, but nothing great.
And then it really kicked off, though, with Wonder Woman, which didn't sell well, but got the critical attention that they were looking for.
That one's good. I remember that one.
And a pretty big cast for that one, too. Carrie Russell's Wonder Woman, Nathan Fillion as Steve Trevor, Virginia Madsen, Alfred Molina, Oliver Platt. Like, there's some big names in that one.
Rosario Dawson.
No, she's not in that one.
Yeah, she is. She's Artemis.
Oh, she is in that one?
Yeah.
She's in all these? Yeah, she is in that one. She's just in everything now. Green Lantern First Flight was... I don't think sold super great, but it got really good reviews.
I haven't seen that one yet.
Really, with these movies, it's when they tried to kind of give lesser-known characters origin stories is when the sales weren't fantastic.
Yeah.
But the ones like that had the big characters weren't as good. Like Superman, Batman, Public Enemies is a good movie, but it's not really a great movie. It's cheap looking.
Yeah, especially hate when the animations do that weird thing with the lips.
Mm-hmm.
It's always creeped me out. It's just like, why did you do that?
But really, again, they got back on their hood because look at this two movie streak here. Justice League Crisis on Two Earths, which is fantastic.
Yep.
Followed by Batman Under the Red Hood, which we talked about, is also fantastic.
Crisis on Two Worlds was a lot of fun. Quite the different voice casting you'd ever expect to hear from in these movies, but they all work very well. Especially James Woods as Owlman.
Yeah, Mark Harmon as Superman. William Baldwin as Batman.
Gina Torres as Superwoman.
Yeah, Vanessa Marshall, I think, is like one of the go-to Wonder Woman voice actresses now, but not at the time. Yeah, great. Yeah, Chris Noth as Lex Luthor.
Nolan North as Green Lantern.
Yeah, fantastic cast. Great movie. It's just a fun, again, kind of the Saturday morning cartoonish, but it's really fun. Also
really dark at times.
Mm-hmm. Like they adapted the Earth 2 storyline by Grant Morrison really well. Superman Batman Apocalypse is pretty terrible, though, I will say that.
Isn't that with the giant robot that's half Batman, half Superman? No, that's public. Yeah, never mind.
Batman Apocalypse is the one where Batman
Supergirl shows up.
Giant dog with the jetpack.
Yeah.
That one's not great. Also, Superman I haven't seen, but I read the book, and that's why I haven't seen it.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen that one either.
Emerald Knights is great. That's a fun anthology movie. Again, it's an anthology movie, so you kind of have to take it, with kind of a grain of salt. Mm-hmm. But it is pretty fun. Again, it has a really fun voice cast with Nathan Fillion, Elizabeth Moss, and Jason freaking Isaacs as Sinestro. Henry Rollins as Kilowog.
Yeah, isn't Nathan Fillion like always Green Lantern nowadays?
Not always, but he's like their go-to guy at a point.
He's a great Green Lantern.
Yes, he's really good. Batman Year One, which is actually a really good adaptation. Like that, this is when they started doing like the prestige storylines like directly, and this is when they started to get really good. Batman Year One's a really good movie.
Which is funny because it's more of a Jim Gordon movie than it is a Batman movie.
And they have Bryan Cranston as Jim Gordon. Like it works so well.
And freaking Jim Gordon is a freaking badass in this movie.
I mean, it's a great comic storyline, and it's a great movie. Justice League Doom is really good.
Yeah, it's probably one of my favorites.
Superman versus the Elite I haven't seen, but Doom is really good. I'm gonna skip one because and go back to it. But see, a lot of these I haven't seen because they're not that big. Like Superman Unbound or Superman versus the Elite. Those were kind of failures, so I didn't end up seeing those. I'll watch them eventually. But this is when Bruce Timm stopped being involved. So this is when it got to be questionable. But I want to stop because I'm at what might be my favorite of all of this. And I think it might be yours too, I'm not sure. But we're on Batman The Dark Knight Returns.
It's definitely up there. Honestly, I can't say what would be my favorite off the top of my head right now.
It was a two-part animated movie It was released like 6 months at one after the other, but kind of needs to be seen both at the same time.
Yeah, definitely at the same time.
It's long if you do that, but this movie is an epic. Like this is an animated epic based off probably my favorite Batman storyline of all time, The Dark Knight Returns. It is so awesome. It's so much fun. It gets the art style of the comic right. It gets the craziness of the comic right, but also really truly makes it feel like it's this big, epic adventure of an old, deranged Batman coming out of retirement and continuing his war on crime.
Who did not want to retire.
Peter Weller gives what I think is the second best Batman voice performance ever.
Probably.
I don't know, you said Bruce Greenwood, but I would put Peter Weller just a little bit over Greenwood.
I think I put Peter Weller down just because he's only done these two. If he did it more often, maybe I'd put it a little higher. But maybe just because Bruce Greenwood does it a lot more.
It's just such a good performance.
Yeah, I no doubt about that.
The voice acting is pretty hit or miss overall, but I mean, this movie, honestly, if they would have given it just a little bit more money, a little bit more time, they could have released it theatrically. It's that good. It probably would have made money because it's really freaking good.
Especially the second part. Second part is probably the best part.
Yeah. Part one is all like the story bits. Part two is just when everything pops off.
Everything hits the fan.
Like imagine if they made this movie with like the Spider-Verse art style.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Like that would just look incredible. And the movie looks pretty good as is, but like I said, it's still pretty cheaply made. But they did their best with the budget, and it's really. I don't want to spoil it because again, I mean, it's like a 40-year-old comic. But if you haven't read it, you really need to just kind of go in with a completely fresh mind, because it's unlike any Batman story that you've ever seen. And you're probably thinking, oh, it's just Dark Knight Rises. It's not. It's a whole different animal.
So much better.
It's like a weird, like, dystopian Batman storyline that's very dark and brooding, but also just big. It's one of the first Batman epics.
Kind of surprises these say it's PG-13. I thought these were R.
No, they didn't turn R until later on.
Oh, okay. So, I remember seeing a lot of blood.
There was a lot of blood in it, and there was some pretty graphic moments. But they somehow cheated their way into a PG-13 rating. But this is one, almost all these are on HBO Max if you have that service. And most of these are honestly worth watching. But this one especially, if you like Batman, this is a must-watch movie in my opinion.
I want to see a good Batman versus Superman fight.
Oh yeah, it's a lot like the one movie, but it's so freaking over the top. It's awesome.
The dialogue between these two is so much better in this movie, though. Mm-hmm. Just like him saying, I could have not gone easy on you. I could have, but I want you to remember about the man who beat you.
I want you to remember, Clark, my hand's on your throat. I want you to remember the one man who beat you. God, it's such a badass thing to say.
The only thing I never cared about for this story was just Carrie Kelly.
See, I disagree. Carrie Kelly's awesome. She's one of the better Robins, in my opinion. I don't know why she wasn't made full canon. Maybe it's because I've read all of the Dark Knight Returns stories and I've kind of seen her art, but I do really like her.
Maybe. Or maybe I just have to rewatch this and maybe I'll have a different...
What's her name? What's the actress name? Was it it's Ariel something?
Ariel Winter.
Her performance of it wasn't great. I think that has something to do with it.
I think that's probably it. It's just one thing DC animation was never good at was the female side character, younger girls. They never knew how to write them. They were always annoying to me. And
that is a very common thread with Bruce Timm. Bruce Timm kind of started that, and other people just kind of picked up on it and never got any better.
Yeah.
But we'll get to Bruce Timm and female characters in a little bit. We got the big one coming up.
Yeah.
But just to keep this organized, I want to talk in depth about... So basically, after Dark Knight Returns and Unbound, they had this really ambitious idea to do a shared universe, just the animated movies, which started with Justice League, the Flashpoint Paradox, and continued for, I think, till last year.
Yeah, I think so. So
for 7 years, they made 20-some animated movies that all fell into this. And we're going to kind of maybe go a little bit fast, but this is when things both got really good and really bad for these movies. Because we got some really good adaptations storylines of really big name stories, but they were all under this umbrella of this singular brand. So all of these really big storylines are serving this
bigger narrative
motive, which means they all have the same voice cast, which is hit or miss. They'll have the same animation style, which is not good in my opinion.
No.
These movies have like this weird kind of half anime look to them, and every character has like super fat necks.
Yeah, like the characters are kind of anime, but their background is more cartoonish.
They don't really move super great. Like the movement's really stilted. Character designs don't look good. It's not their best work.
Definitely not.
I think part of it is Bruce Timm is no longer involved, and you can kind of see that in his style. I mean, Bruce Timm from the beginning, his animation has always been super flowy, super tight, really well done, and these just, they don't look good. They look cheap. Even though I will say Flashpoint Paradox is a really good movie.
That one's great.
Like
Get to see murdering
one's,
Batman with guns.
Yeah, Kevin McKidd as Flashpoint Batman is really good. It does a really good job because I've read the entire Flashpoint event, including all the spin-off storylines. The main book, Flashpoint, which is based off of, which is about, it's what created the New 52, where the Flash went back in time, stopped his mother from getting murdered, and in turn created this alternate timeline where Wonder Woman and Aquaman are at a war that's about to destroy the entire planet, and he needs to get back and fix the timeline. And it's weird that this was a movie that started off their animated universe, but I think it works really well.
What's really weird is it looks completely different to the rest of the universe.
Yeah, it's almost like this wasn't supposed to be part of it. They just kind of made it halfway through production.
Yeah.
Even though it has like a bizarrely big voice cast that the other movies don't have after it. I mean, Michael B. Jordan is Cyborg. Like this is before he got very famous, but he's freaking Cyborg. Kevin McKidd as Batman. Cary Elwes as Aquaman, he's actually a really good Aquaman. I wish he did more as that character. He's actually really good.
What also kind of sucks is like you had in this movie, you have at the beginning, at the end, you have Kevin Conroy and Sam Daly as Superman. You're like, oh, the regulars are here. And then the next movie, it's like, oh, we switched them all out.
Yeah, they really wanted to do their own thing. Like Flashpoint is a really good movie that films after it don't really live up to in a lot of ways. And this starts off with our next film, Justice League War, which is an adaptation of the first New 52 Justice League storyline, Justice League Origin. And that's a big thing with these movies, too, is initially these movies were basically a film adaptation of the New 52, which was never popular. The New 52 was not a well-liked idea.
No.
So it was strange to me even at the time that that's what they're going to base these movies off of. And shockingly enough, people kind of rejected them for that, including me, because I was not a fan of New 52 at launch. I've grown to be okay with New 52.
There's some good things in there.
But I just got into DC Comics. I was just into the world, and all of a sudden, he just flipped it and just ended everything. And their attempts to because that was the beginning of New 52, right? It's just supposed to simplify the DC Comics into 52 books only and very streamlined story. No, it was more complicated than ever before.
I was going to say, didn't they screw up a lot of storylines or whatever?
Well, if you wanted to get the full Batman story, you had to read like 5 different Batman books at the same time, which wasn't as bad as Green Lantern, where like the main story was scattered throughout several books. So you had to read a bunch of books just to know what was going on.
Yeah, it seems like a clusterfuck.
And it's kind of what they were trying with these movies, but they kind of gave up halfway through. Like Justice League War is a pretty much perfect adaptation of Origin, and is honestly a better version of the Justice League live action movie that we got.
Yeah, isn't like the only thing that's different. Like they have Shazam in here instead of Aquaman.
Yeah, Aquaman's not in this one, but Shazam is really good in this movie. Shazam, played by Sean Astin, probably should have got his own movie at some point. I'm kind of pissed that he did.
Yeah, the voice cast was very hit or miss on this one.
Yeah, there's some. It's strange because it's arguably like the biggest cast of these movies, or one of them at least, and most of them are only in this one movie. I mean, a lot of times it's the same voice actors. Jason O'Mara, I think, is the only one that maybe who plays Flash?
Christopher Gorham. I think
Yeah. I think Jason O'Mara, Gorham, and Shamar Moore
are like the only constants.
Yeah, Sean Astin plays Shazam for like another movie, and then he's just gone.
You had Alan Tudyk playing Superman.
Who's actually really good. I mean, I like Alan Tudyk and everything, but I never thought he could play Superman, but he can.
Mm-hmm.
Michelle Monaghan was also not a bad Wonder Woman, I thought.
No. That's why I was confused when they switched her with, I just said her name the other.
Rosario Dawson.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought Michelle Monaghan was good. Justin Kirk as Green Lantern, I really liked. I mean, Nathan Fillion's better. Justin Kirk was pretty good.
I thought he did a pretty good job.
Yeah, it's a good movie. I do recommend this one, except for the fact that this movie only serves to set up other movies.
Yeah, basically.
And so, other storylines that doesn't really fulfill, because like New 52, these movies kind of abandon their main purpose about halfway through this.
And then don't bring it back till the end.
Mm-hmm. I mean, because the next movie we have is Son of Batman, which is pretty weak.
Yeah. And
Son of Batman's pretty shit.
This is where the voice casting really got wonky. You got Thomas Gibson as Deathstroke.
Who's terrible.
Kid they got to play Damien, I thought was pretty good.
Yeah, Stu Allen's good. Maria Bakarin as Talia al Ghul is good.
Sean Mayer or something as Nightwing, I didn't care for too much.
No, he's not great. But, I mean, Jason O'Mara starts out pretty bad, but gets better as these progress.
Yeah, he takes a while, but you definitely get used to. He does get better as the movies go on. The one thing I'm pissed about this entire New 52 thing is, like, you create a whole new universe. Like, could we not get all 4 Robins in a movie at one point?
Yeah, that part kind of blows. But that's because they're too busy with the freaking New 52 just in general.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, because the next movie is based directly off a Justice League storyline from the 52. It's Throne of Atlantis, again, which is a really good movie. Throne of Atlantis is really good.
Yeah, I like this one.
But the whole the voice cast basically gets replaced.
Gets revamped. You're like, what the hell?
Yeah, it's completely replaced. But the animation is the same. Action is good. Batman versus Robin, I like a lot.
It's kind of hit or miss for me. I love the parts with the Court of Owls, but
Batman Bad Blood just tries to do way too much.
Yeah, talk about trying to do way too much. Oh, let's throw Batwoman in here. Okay, let's make Nightwing Batman.
And let's throw in Batwing.
And then let's throw a cameo at Batgirl, who will never get her own movie.
Yeah, like, it was bizarre. They put way too many characters into this film.
That's the problem with this whole entire series, is throughout the entire series of movies, especially the Justice League, you get new people in the league, but then yet you never bring them along on these different missions. It's still just the same people.
And a lot of these movies should probably have been 2 movies. Batman Bad Blood's the example of that. Batman Bad Blood should have probably been 2 movies. To really, because one of the big plots of it is Batman dead, Dick Grayson becomes Batman. And that doesn't get like any time to really be explored.
No, we're too busy exploring Batwoman and her dilemmas. It's like, these should be 2 separate movies.
Yeah, these movies just do way too much, way too little. And they're only each like 80 minutes each. So they're not very long. So to do all the stuff they do in 80 minutes is, I mean, it's amazing that they're as good as they are, but they could be better.
Well, that's the thing about the entire series. Like, I can't say they're god-awful, but I can't say they're great. They're just meh.
Mm-hmm. I love this. Some of them are better than others, but none of them get to the highs of some of the older ones. I mean, this is a kind of the dark era. I mean, Justice League versus Teen Titans, again, there should be a Teen Titans movie before this movie.
Well, that's what half this movie spends its time doing, and then all of a sudden, like, the last, 20 minutes, it's like, okay, now they fight.
Yeah, like, it's just bizarre, and that's how Justice League vs. Teen Titans sounds so cheap. It sounds like a cheap movie. Like, if you're trying to sell a movie, that's a shit title.
Yeah, especially considering they don't fight till the 20 minutes, and it's basically a Trigon. It's more a Raven movie than anything.
Yeah, and it makes people, I think, know that these aren't standalone movies. I think it's intimidating for them to jump in.
Yeah, although I did like what they did with Raven and the Teen Titans.
I like what they do with the Teen Titans. I hate that all gets like thrown away.
Yeah, I know. And one thing I had a problem with the New 52 is Cyborg belongs with the Teen Titans, not the Justice League right away.
He really does. The Justice League vs. Teen Titans kind of alludes to to that, but doesn't really go all the way with it.
No, it does not. It teases it, and then it's like, nope, next movie.
Next up, we actually have one of the better ones, I think. One that I think is actually a good movie, and that's Justice League Dark.
Yeah.
That's a good movie. That's actually a really good movie.
This is probably Jason O'Mara's best performance as Batman.
Who really shouldn't be in the movie, but I'm glad he is.
He can't, yeah. Although I wish other leaguers would have came along here and there.
Yeah, but it's a really good adaptation of a really underrated comic book, which is Justice League Dark. Tons of fun magic stuff, really good twists.
Got Matt
good
Ryan
Alfred Molina cameo.
as John Constantine, because I think that's all he knows how to play.
I think so. He played live action, animation, video games, whatever. That's
live action.
He's become Kevin Conroy.
Hey, keeps you working.
Justice League, Teen Titans, the Judas Contract is next, which. I mean, Miguel Ferrer redeems Deathstroke after Thomas Gibson ruined that character. But this just, again, which become a theme going forward, doesn't do good enough with its source material, which is one of the greatest miniseries for comics of all time, which is the Judas Contract.
Yeah, I mean, was there even really a contract? I don't even remember.
Not really. It's more of Tara's supposed to betray the Justice League as Deathstroke's inside person. Which she does, but the movie tries to redeem her, whereas in the comics basically say that she's insane.
Yeah.
She's incapable of love. She's incapable of forming a bond with these characters, and that's what makes it heartbreaking, is that people like Beast Boy think she is.
Well, and you might know this more than I would, isn't the Judas Contract, the comic, isn't that where like Nightwing makes a deal with Deathstroke that they'll stop going after each other?
I don't think so. I read it recently. I don't think it happened. It's where Nightwing became Nightwing.
Got it.
Dick Grayson rejected the Robin
mantle,
the Robin mantle, and I think became Nightwing at the end. It's a very good storyline that the movie does not take to its full potential. This one I actually really, really like. Suicide Squad: Hell to Pay.
Yeah, this one was kind of fun.
It's really fun. It's mostly standalone except for a callback to Flashpoint.
Yeah.
But it's really fun.
Really uses the R to its good use. I like that there's a lot of different unique squad mates for the Suicide Squad.
And there are other R-rated animated movies in this line. This is one of the only ones that I feel like truly earns it.
Yep.
It's really violent, but it's really fun. It kind of has the style that the new movie kind of was going for.
Yep.
But with a lot smaller budget. But it is pretty great. Next up, we have another two-parter: the Death of Superman and Reign of the Supermen.
Death of Superman, I didn't mind too much. It was the second part that kind of felt really out of place.
I watched these movies back to back because I own the cut of them where it's both of them edited as one big epic movie. And whereas Dark Knight Returns, it's like these are like have to be seen as one movie. Oh my God, it was hard to get through. It was really hard to get through both of them as one movie.
I bet.
Which I thought it'd be like it should be easy because they're one storyline. It was rough. There's some really good moments, especially the fight with Doomsday.
Mm-hmm. And the League being wrecked by Doomsday before Superman shows up.
Yeah. Like there's some really good moments, but it drags and drags and drags.
And then the second part, basically all these Supermen just coming out of nowhere.
Not explained, not developed.
I mean, the only development we get of Steel is he shows up in War for like one cameo, and the guy's like, "Hey, what's your name? You say your first and last name. Get away from there." I'm like, well, that's a blatant kind of, hey, we're going to be bringing this character back at some point.
They're setting up something, which brings up, and in the movie too, like Jerry O'Connell actually is really good as Superman in these movies. He eventually gets really good. Yeah. Rainn Wilson as Lex Luthor sounds really good on paper.
Oh, but sounds so bad in practice.
He's just so nasally.
Yeah. He sounds like a whiny Lex Luthor. It's basically like a Jesse Eisenberg Luthor, and you're like, yeah, that didn't work in the live action. It doesn't work here either.
Yeah, it's not what that character needs. Next up, we have this one we won't talk about too much because we did already talk about on the podcast. In I believe it's our Movies That Fooled Us episode, but yeah. Batman.
Way to take the comic comic and be like, hey, we're at the end, we're going to subvert your expectations.
Which is what a lot of these direct adaptation ones do, is they take the comic and I don't really want to do a direct adaptation, even though that's what everybody wants.
But yet do a direct adaptation.
So Batman Hush, like we talk about, they change the ending, which makes a lot of the movie make no sense. Again, if you want our full thoughts, we do have an entire not entire episode, but we do have like a 20-minute bit on this movie. Go take a listen. But it's not good. It's like the best comic of these, but like the weakest movie. So I can't recommend it. I feel like had the comic not exist, this actually would have been a pretty good movie.
Yeah, but the comic does exist, so then you're like,
yep. Yeah, because the comic is really good. I know Alex talked about how much he thought it was overrated.
But when someone keeps hyping something up, you're like, you go in with high expectations. So and
then you're like, what the hell? Again, if I had no knowledge of the comic, I actually would like their ending. But I did, so it's like, wait, what?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's not really worth watching unless you're gonna do all of these.
Unless you haven't read the comic and don't know anything about Hush.
Then don't look up anything. At that point, like if you're gonna watch this movie and you don't know anything about the characters, keep it that way. Next up, we have the penultimate film. That's the phrase. Wonder Woman Bloodlines.
This is the only one I haven't seen.
I really like this one. I don't necessarily know why it exists when it does. I think it should have been made far earlier, but it's really good.
Well, it's just companies like, hey, we're almost done with this series. Maybe we should finally make a female superhero one.
Within Wonder Woman before, and it failed, and so they finally went to do her again, and she's actually pretty. It's a pretty good movie. I don't think it did that bad sales wise. It's not their best one. The climax is kind of stupid because again we have another reversal where the villain's not really the villain, and that gets kind of frustrating.
And it really gets frustrating.
And again, a lot of what these movies' big issue is, this is another one that has this problem, is we don't get sequels to them. So it sets up all this really good stuff that doesn't go anywhere in later movies.
Yeah, it's not like the MCU where you get 3 Captain America movies, 3 Iron Man movies.
You have these movies that set up other movies that never come out, which brings us to the end of these movies. Justice League Dark Apocalypse War.
This one was.
I really like this movie.
Yeah, it was a very good ending.
It should have been 2 movies.
Yeah, I'm glad they went out on a high note though.
But it's great. I mean, the best way to describe this movie is Avengers Endgame without an Infinity War.
Yeah, there's basically no setup to it.
Yeah, you're basically like, what the hell is going on? It eventually kind of unveils the mystery as to what happened as the movie progresses. But I kind of wish I saw that happen like in real time.
I agree.
So that's my beef with the movie. But what they do have is epic as fuck.
Mm-hmm.
It's really good.
I mean, you got Batman sitting on, I forget his name. Yeah. Robin taking over the League of Assassins.
Superman depowered the Suicide Squad, like running part of a town. It's a great. Which, speaking of which, we didn't touch upon this on Hush. DC and Warner Brothers, please. I like Tara Strong, I really do, but cast Hynden Welch as Harley Quinn more.
Yeah, I know, right?
She's really good. She has that Arlene Sorkin tone to her voice. Cast her more.
Yeah, I agree.
Tara Strong, I don't understand why she's like the only person that can play Harley Quinn.
I mean, she's good, but she's slowly, like Mark Hamill, she's kind of losing that craziness to her.
Yeah, but Justin, so overall, the DC animated universe, shared universe movies, general thoughts. Overall, as a franchise, what were your thoughts? Were these any good? Were these worth being shared? Would you rather have seen standalone movies? What are your thoughts?
I like them being. I like that they're shared because it kind of keeps the story going. I think there maybe just needs to be more movies and more diverse characters in each of the movies. Not to like how many of these over there are there, and like Batman's in like 2/3 of them.
Yeah.
Like let's get some other characters involved. More Superman ones, more Wonder Woman, Green Lantern Corps movie would have been fun, especially considering we get Hal and then John shows up as cameos in a couple movies.
what I'm thinking, this is a pretty radical idea, but like what I would have liked to have seen is what if these movies were more like an anthology TV show?
Ooh, that'd be interesting.
That cuts from story to story, and you can do more with that scale and kind of get more characters involved that way. Because it's weird that the DC movies have more characters, and the DC TV shows for animation have more characters than the movies do.
Yeah, but I think, like you said, bigger characters sell better.
Yep.
Oh, and also in this movie we get King Shark as a shark.
King Shark is a shark.
Which was funny then at the reversal, like, oh, we're gonna die together. It was fun
to fight by your side.
Are you kidding me?
Again, the movie's really good, but like I wanted more King Shark. I wanted more Suicide Squad. I wanted to see how that stuff came to be.
I wanted to see more of the fight on Apocalypse where they get their ass kicked.
Yeah. Like I wanted to see what got us to this point. It's like Warner liked what they were doing, but didn't commit enough financially for them to really pull it off.
And then you got basically the story ending how it started with Barry going back in time.
And I like these movies. I really do. But overall, I can't score them super high. Like, there's some really high highs, but there's some low lows, and the vast majority of them are kind of just meh in the middle of movies.
Basically, yeah, it's basically the meh animated universe for DC.
Yeah, like I want to like them more. I want to have a higher opinion. But they don't do enough. The endings for most of these is usually where they fall apart.
Yeah, where they set up something else, and that never comes through.
Or just the climax is resolved way too quickly and is super anticlimactic, like in Judas Contract and Batman Hush and all those were just they just fall apart at the end. So overall, if you have HBO Max and you like DC Comics, I'd watch the universe. I'd watch them all in order and give them a shot.
I would too.
But if you're not really into DC movies, there are better options.
Yes.
But in between these movies, we did get some original movies, and I want to just kind of run through some of these real quick, starting with Justice League Guys and Monsters.
Great movie.
Fantastic movie that was supposed to be its own franchise. It didn't really go anywhere.
Oh, that's depressing.
Because they had a 3-part animated on Machinima, which if you haven't seen, I don't know if they're still up because they're on Machinima, but they are some of the Superman short is freaking fantastic. It's mind-blowingly
heart-crushing.
And we're supposed to get more of those after the movie, but we never did. I don't know why. Maybe because Machinima was falling apart at the time. Maybe it's because the movie didn't do as well as they thought. The movie itself is really good. If you haven't seen it, it's Bruce Timm basically created, I think Alan Burnett too, basically created this alternate DC universe where Kirk Lazarus or Man-Bat became Batman. Superman is the son of General Zod, but he was raised by Mexican migrant farmers instead of the Kents. And Wonder Woman is a new god. I mean, you can't really say it's a darker world, even though it kind of is. It's not like darker, like the edgy sense.
It would have been really fun just if they kept the universe going, because you could have had Bruce Wayne interact with Batman at some point. Yeah,
I would have loved to have seen where they plan on going with these, because it's a really good movie, even for alternate universe story. Bruce Timm's designs look great. The action's fun. It's epic. It's a damn good time.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard for me to recommend it because it's gonna make you want more when there is none.
That's the disappointing part.
But if you're looking for a good superhero movie that doesn't really have anything to do with anything else, it's a good time. But now, you know what? No, I'm gonna save this one. Cut this part out. I'm gonna save this one for the very end. You know where I'm at.
Yep.
Well, I'm gonna save this one for the very end. We have Batman and Harley Quinn, which I haven't seen because no one saw it because it's terrible.
I was gonna see it, but I've heard so much bad things about it that I'm like, yeah, I don't really feel like it.
It continues the DC animation universe that Bruce Timm created, but what happens in it? I mean, you have Melissa Ross, who was a horrible Harley Quinn voice. I couldn't watch it after I heard her performance. She's so bad.
Yeah,
it doesn't work. It just does not work. Her vocal tone's all over the place. And then there's the very troubling scene that I will not say, but if you look this movie up online, the first thing that you see that is really troubling.
Yep.
But it's just not that interesting. Even though people want more animated series, it's just not what people wanted. Next, we have Batman Gotham by Gaslight, which I've read the comic. I've not seen the movie. because I saw it and it spoiled it for me, and I got really angry. So even though I own the movie on Blu-ray, I still have not seen it.
See, I don't even know what the ending is. I haven't seen it, but I still kind of want to.
I love the comic. It's if you haven't don't know anything about this, it's about a world where it's like Batman in Victoria, London, England.
And he's hunting
or
Jack the
Victoria,
Ripper.
Gotham. Yeah, hunting Jack the Ripper. It's like steampunk and stuff. It's a lot of fun. It's a really fun comic. I'm sure the movie has that fun. The ending is just pretty frustrating. Let's see any more standalone ones? Actually, there's one more. There's Justice League versus two more. Justice League versus the Fatal Five, which is good but meaningless.
Yeah.
It's a fun time, interesting little movie. I don't know if it's canon with the Justice League TV show, but it's the same art style.
And same voice cast, basically, too.
Yeah.
I will say I did love what they did with Jessica Cruz as Green Lantern in this movie.
She's so good. They did a good job with her.
Just like you have this superhero who's dealing with depression, and it's just like it was done so well.
Mm-hmm. She was a very strong character that I don't really like in the comics that much, but she was really good in this movie.
Yeah.
And it's a fun movie. Again, it's just, if they were making more, I would say it means more and it's worth a watch. But it's just, unless you're a really big fan of Justice League TV show,
it kind of goes nowhere.
Yeah, it goes nowhere and kind of falls flat because there's nothing after it. It feels like a TV show episode with no other episodes.
It's like a pilot that just didn't get picked up. It's really good, but why didn't it get picked up? Why isn't there more?
Mm-hmm. And now we're at probably the one that frustrates me the most out of all of these. And that's Superman Red Son. I love this comic by Mark Millar. It's so good. It's one of the best Superman stories ever. It's a story about Superman where instead of in America, lands in the Soviet Union, and it builds up the DC universe from there. With Superman kind of leading the Soviet Union as the world superpower, Lex Luthor and allies trying to beat him. You have a Soviet revolutionary, so like a capitalist revolutionary Batman going after Superman. Wonder Woman sides with Superman. You have the Green Lantern Corps is a branch of the U.S. military. It's such a good storyline, and this movie ruined it, butchered it at every level.
I didn't mind it, but I haven't read the comic, so...
If you read the comic, you'd be pissed, because, first off, the animation is terrible. This is one of the ugliest looking of these movies, by default.
Well, it's like, they're like, oh, it's in Russia, so we're gonna make it look kind of crappy and dark all the time. It's like...
You get there's no lighting. It's crappy, dark, and gray, but, like, there's no lighting effects. The animation is cheap looking. And the end is so butchered, because the ending of Red Son the comic actually has this kind of nuanced political satire ending that the movie just ignores for cheap thrills. It ends way too quickly and way too rushed, again, like all these movies, or at least the vast majority of them.
That's disappointing.
I mean, I like the voice cast. Jason Isaacs as Superman, Roger Craig Smith as Russian Batman.
It was a lot of fun.
He's a ton of fun. Diedrich Bader as Lex Luthor is great.
Yeah, I was surprising on that. I was like...
I was not looking forward to him, but he actually pulled off really well.
Pulled it better off than Rain.
Yeah, I don't know why he wasn't cast in the main ones, honestly, after hearing him in that movie. And of course, my man, we talked about him a lot on this podcast, Paul Williams as Brainiac. I love him. Great actor. I'm glad he's getting more voice work, and he's great as Brainiac. Just the movie itself just doesn't hold water, in my opinion. Anyway, this brings us to probably the most controversial of these movies. If you were kind of following this when they were coming out, this one was big for many reasons. Batman the Killing Joke. Batman the Killing Joke, one of the most well-known, well-regarded, and controversial Batman comic storylines written by Alan Moore with art by Brian.
Also well-hated.
Yeah, it's very well-hated. It's the one where, I'm sure if you don't know anything about comics, you've seen the imagery of Joker with the camera that is on the cover. That's where this is from. It's the one where he shoots Barbara Gordon and cripples her. That's not really spoilers. If you don't know that by now, I'm sorry. It's not really important. What's important in this movie is that he does that and tries to make Gordon go insane. Everything about this movie looked good on paper. I mean, because I think we were like talking when it was coming out.
Well, the trailer would look great. I mean,
the trailer looked great.
They pulled off the art style from the comic.
Yeah, I mean, they could have been a little bit more detailed. Could have been a little bit more money put into it, especially for lighting effects and detail. But they did their best with what they were given. Mm-hmm. I mean, really, I think the only reason why this movie exists is so they could find a way to have Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill do Killing Joke.
Well, Mark Hamill's said multiple times that the only way he'd come back is if he got to do Killing Joke.
And then he came back anyway.
Yeah, and I was going to say, then that was a lie, because he basically comes back for anything nowadays.
But he finally got to do Killing Joke. And a lot of people like showing his performance in this movie. I think he's one of the better parts of it.
They shit on him and Kevin Conroy's performance, and I think it's one of their best.
I would agree. Like they give it their all.
I don't get the hate, but it could be by the point they got to them that the performance, the other first half of this movie, is what everyone was like already like, okay, I'm tired of this movie, and then they got to that part.
Because that's the big thing with this movie, is that it's only a 2/3 Killing Joke movie. The first part of it is a prologue, because Killing Joke is a really short story, and DC wanted to make it a full-length movie for them.
They should have just made it a short.
Yeah, that's honestly what they should have done, but they would make more money, because this was the one that went into theaters and I think holds the record for most profit made in one night.
I was gonna say, didn't this go in theaters? And
I saw it in theaters. I was like, you're damn right, I'm seeing this in theaters, and it was huge. They were opening up. It was selling out first night. We're a theater. I went to was a Marcus, like a giant Marcus. They had a bistro showing of it for one, which is like one of the bigger theaters, for a one night only showing that became a 2-night showing. Like this movie was a big deal when it came out, and everyone saw that first prologue. Which one of the biggest complaints with Killing Joke is that Barbara Gordon serves as a object. She's not really a character. She's just more of a passive object in the story. To what other characters, it's kind of like the fridge effect didn't work, and so they gave her own little prologue, and it
sucks.
It's terrible, and it ends with, I'm sorry, this is spoilers, but it ends with Batman and Batgirl banging.
Which, this is a Bruce Timm thing that's been going on forever, and it's the creepiest thing.
Yeah, Bruce Timm really wants Batman, because Bruce Timm came back, like, for this movie. Like, this and Gods and Monsters, he came back, he quit after Dark Knight Returns, he came back for these movies, and this is what he made, and it's really weird. Yeah, Bruce Timm really he seems to, like, he wants their relationship, Batman and Batgirl, to just be something that nobody else wants, which is romantic. And I don't know, I guess because I think I always saw them as a father-daughter relationship, but it just seems weird to me.
Well, like, aren't him and Jim pretty much closer in age than him and Barbara? So it's just kind of creepy.
I think so. It depends on the universe.
Depends on the continuity, yeah, but just kind of like,
And it was rated R. I didn't really think it earned the R rating.
No. Well, that and the other part of the prologue that sucks is it's just basically Batgirl being obsessed with some guy who acts like the Joker. It's kind of like nothing new. Yeah.
This movie grossed $3.2 million on just one night of theaters in only select theaters. That's a lot. That's an insane amount of money.
It was a big deal.
Yeah, it made a bunch of profit, which they were told in some of these movies getting Fathom releases, but they never did as well as Killing Joke, just because they weren't as big storylines. Mm-hmm. And this movie was pretty bombed. His Rotten Tomatoes score is 40%, which might be the lowest of any of these movies.
Probably, because I think the problem was it was the prologue. Either you hated it or you liked it. There wasn't really any in between.
I don't think it's that bad. I do love Brian Azzarello's quote, which I think he was involved in making this movie, but he wrote, "The thing about this is that it's controversial, so we added more controversy." And Bruce Timm acknowledges that it was risky. Maybe they were trying to defer the controversy away from the subject matter of the original comic and onto that, because it is a very controversial storyline for its treatment of Barbara. Even Alan Moore kind of regrets making it, he said. But I like it. I guess I like it when it's Killing Joke.
Yeah, it works when it's Killing Joke. The prologue, if anything, you could have made Batman more part of it. Mm-hmm. We came for a Batman movie, and it starts...
Or do another Joker story. Bring the Joker into it.
Yeah, have it lead up to the Killing Joke or something. Mm-hmm. Like he breaks out or something.
Or you have Batman and Batgirl fighting like classic Joker, right? Classic cartoony in a hot hot air balloon with his face on it Joker.
Yeah, that would work.
And then you cut to Killing Joker when when you get that shift in the character.
Because that would fit right in line with the Joker's character. I mean, he's unpredictable and crazy.
I don't think there's a lot of ways to do this movie 100% right, but
I mean, had they just done like those, like they did those little DC showcases like with Jonah Hex and Green Arrow and Catwoman, if they did something like that with this,
this is almost too big to do as that.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Which they eventually did do because they did it with which just came out, Batman Under the Red Hood, or the Red Hood. No, Batman Death in the Family, the interactive movie. It's a short film of Death in the Family. It's basically just Under the Red Hood, but now interactive. You can kind of choose which ending that you get, but only if you buy it on Blu-ray like me. I haven't actually watched it yet because I'm waiting to do it with my wife when we have time, but that is an option.
Yeah, I'd like to see that, but I remember the trailer and I was just like, this is too much like the Red Hood.
It's the same movie. It's the same movie, but I can choose your own storyline, which is kind of cool, but let's see how much novelty wears off. Before we wrap this up, let's talk about a few other quick DC animated things with these movies. What's your opinion on the short films that they've made for some of these? Because you kind of just mentioned them. But they've made quite a few of these.
I like them. They were a lot of fun. I like the Green Lantern one. The Catwoman one was fun.
The Jonah Hex one's really good.
Yeah, I thought they were a lot of fun.
The ones aren't great, but
I don't know if I've seen any of the newer ones.
They were attached to like the newer films. Like Hush had a Sergeant Rock one with it, which is all right. Red Sun had a Phantom Stranger one that's really good.
Oh yeah, I think I saw that one. That was fun.
Because it's done in that classic, almost Bruce Timm style.
Yeah.
And it's really dark. I do like that one a lot. If you can find copies of those are kind of hard to find. Because I don't think they're on a lot of the streaming versions. Although I think if you watch the Death in the Family animated short, I think the newer ones are with that. So if you want to watch it, they're attached as like one film to make it like feature length.
Okay.
Let's talk quick about a animated DC movie that's not part of this lineup, but I think deserves to be talked about when we're talking about the newer movies. This is one that I made you watch.
Yeah.
And I kept saying the words, "You're not ready for this. You're not prepared for this. What you're about to see will shock you," and you didn't believe me until you actually watched it. That's Batman Ninja.
This movie you are not prepared for.
It's insane. It's a Batman anime done by the people that do JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. And it's crazy. It's so off the wall. Because I think it's very controversial. I've seen it. Either people love it or they absolutely hate it. I love it because it's one of the stupidest quiz movies I've ever seen. I won't say what happens because I feel like part of this movie enjoyment is just the surprise of what happens in it.
And you wouldn't believe us if we told you. Trust me.
That too.
I mean, I thought I knew it was gonna be crazy because it's kind of based on anime, but it was like I wasn't even prepared for what the hell they did.
I guess for the non-spoilers version, this is about Batman traveling to feudal Japan and fighting his time-displaced villains in feudal Japan. And that sounds normal and sane. The movie's not, but it's also badass as hell.
Yes.
The action is amazing, and it's really bizarre and strange. Like sometimes like the animation will like change style or change format. It's a very bizarre movie, but I can't help but love it. I've watched it so many times, and I can't help but like just keep watching it over and over again because it's so ridiculous.
And I think they took their anime style and really ran with it because anime is ridiculous in a lot of senses. So it did what it should have.
DC did the right thing in that they gave the characters to the studio and let them do whatever they wanted with the character, and they basically said, we're gonna give Batman a tour of Japan. We're gonna give him a tour of the anime world, and they do. There's samurai knife sword fights. There's car chases. There's giant robot mech battles.
Everything you don't think would work, but for some reason it works.
And it's just gorgeous. Sometimes the animation looks a little bit wonky, but the character designs by Bob are phenomenal.
Yeah, they're a lot of fun.
I don't think you really knew what to expect until he made you watch it, and then you were like, "Oh, I kind of get it's Batman, as a samurai ninja. This is pretty cool." And then it goes, and it's like, "What the hell is happening?"
Basically.
I want to see them do more. I want to see them do more with DC characters. Maybe not necessarily Batman, but I don't know. I want to see this company do more with these characters. It was way too much fun. Like you tell me, even like the voice actors were having a blast doing the dubbing.
Well, and this is kind of what has me somewhat excited. Also, if you've seen, because they just dropped the trailer for Star Wars Stories.
Star Wars Visions.
Yeah, Visions, where it's basically anime. It's like, I know it's not gonna line up with anything they do in the Star Wars universe. They're gonna do crazy things, but I'm all for it, and it looks like it could be a lot of fun.
Star Wars Visions. I wasn't really that interested until that trailer dropped. That's a fantastic trailer. If you haven't seen it, watch it right now. It looks like I was worried that Disney wasn't gonna let the anime studios
do their thing.
Yeah, do the thing. It looks like my fears were wrong. Like this looks like an anime. And my wife's really big into anime, and so she saw all the production companies that are involved, and she was like, "Oh my god, these are some heavy hitters."
Now, what stories they have going would Disney pick through? I don't know if they had much involvement in that, or they just let them do what they wanted to do. I hope they let them just do what they wanted to do, but we'll see. But from the trailer, it looks like they're letting him do whatever.
It's like they're taking a Batman Ninja approach to it, and just letting them make their own Star Wars stories. And I think people are going to respond really well. I don't necessarily think everyone will.
No, they'll definitely be the people like, oh, this doesn't make any sense, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, it's out of continuity, I'm pretty sure. It's just a different style trying to reach a different audience. And I think
some families will be upset because like even that trailer was like pretty surreal.
Yeah, and pretty dark. Yeah,
and over the top. So I think some families might be upset by it, but I'm all in. I'm all for it.
Same.
Now, Justin, big question. I'm sure we'll talk about more of this stuff later on. But DC animation now, how does it compare to DC animation from like the 90s and early 2000s?
Not very well.
No, I would agree.
And the past is far superior than the present is right now.
Yeah, I mean, past...
Like, even their new... I don't even know if it's a cinematic universe, but I want to say it is because they all look like shitty animation.
Oh, the new movies that I haven't seen any of?
I've only seen one. I saw the Superman Man of Tomorrow, and just the animation does not work. And
I'm just so exhausted by the shared universe stuff. Like Batman Like Halloween, which came out in a 2-part movie very recently. It's like my second favorite Batman story ever, and I don't care. I'm not interested because the art style looks like shit. And Long Halloween has like one of the most prolific art styles of any Batman comic ever, and they didn't translate it over.
And I get they're trying to do something different with a style or something, but it looks crappy.
It looks cheap. It looks crappy.
It looks on a budget.
And Tim Sale's art is iconic, but also if you read the book, you could like easily animate his artwork and like use his artwork as character models. It might cost more than you want to do, but like you can do it. But again, it looks cheap.
Yeah.
And that's the thing too, right? OG DC animation, like Batman animated series, even through Justice League, did not look cheap. It looked top of the line. It looked stylistic.
And they put a lot of effort into it.
Yes, exactly. Like especially Batman animated series, Superman animated series, like those two shows look better than most other shows of that era.
They look better than most shows now.
True, sadly. It's shocking to me how bad DC's got, even with Bruce Timm as the lead. Well, and part of it too is flipping through this list. Most of these movies are directed by like the same one or two dudes.
Yeah,
it's Sam Liu. He's done most. He directed most of these movies.
Gotta get some new blood in there. Change it up.
Even some of the DC, even some of the Marvel ones, like Hulk versus, which I actually really like, and Planet Hulk. But he's done a lot of DC animation, and he even directed Batman: Soul of the Dragon, which I really want to see. I have not seen.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one either.
I'm waiting for it to come on HBO Max if it ever does. If that'd be on by now.
I'm surprised it's not.
If it was, I would have watched it by now. And if I knew it wasn't going to be this soon, I would have bought it by now.
When did this get released? It says 2021.
Yeah, it
doesn't have a date though.
This year. I mean, I feel like they are making too many of these too quickly too.
Yeah.
I kind of wish that they would slow down and kind of put more effort into one. But I do really want to see that movie though.
I don't even remember what's all coming up that they got going on.
But that said, DC animation, even still, I think it's kicking Marvel animation's butt, like we said earlier.
Yeah.
That animation is a battlefield where DC is so far ahead of Marvel, it's not even funny.
And even their bad movies, I mean, they have some things that are somewhat fun.
Marvel had some good animation when they were directly competing with DC. Honestly, I think they might have started doing it first, to be honest with you. I'm pretty sure Ultimate Avengers might have come out before Superman Doomsday. Let's see here. Ultimate Avengers, the movie. Yeah, it came out 2006. It came out before. It came out way before DC did it, which is kind of shocking to me. But these are pretty good, though. I don't know if you've actually seen any of these.
I may have seen one or two.
Yeah, Ultimate Avengers 2 are actually good movies. Invincible Iron Man's okay. I really like the Doctor Strange one. Next Avengers is kind of crap. Hulk versus the Thor short is bad, but the Wolverine short is really good. And then Planet Hulk, which is all right, and Thor: Tales of Asgard, which I haven't seen. But they're pretty good movies. Like they're actually really fun movies. But Marvel just couldn't commit to animation as much as as much as DC could. And when they did, we got the MCU animated adaptations that are just terrible looking and boring and lame, which I think you can find on Disney Plus. I've thought about binging through them.
Yeah, I think you can.
But I'm trying to binge through like X-Men the animated series and stuff, like all the good stuff. And maybe I'll do Avengers: Earth's Mightiest Heroes, which is actually a really good show.
Yeah, that show is great. It's sad that it got canceled.
It got canceled, so they go make all the shitty shows.
So they could make the show based on the movies, basically.
Well, because I think that one might have been out before this, or was in production, but before Disney
bought them.
Yeah, because it started in fall of 2010. So it was probably in production before Disney bought Marvel.
I mean, if they did like a Fantastic Four animated movie, I bet they'd do really well.
They need to use animation to reintroduce X-Men and Fantastic Four, I feel.
Yeah.
Because Fantastic Four had that show from, like, was it 2005? That was like Cartoon Network.
Yeah. It wasn't great, but it was pretty good.
It was good. It had nothing on any of the DC shows.
I think that was its problem.
But it was all right. I mean, I do really like Wolverine and the X-Men. I'm pissed that show was canceled after one season. That's actually a really good show. And the Marvel anime shows weren't that bad. There was a time, people seem to forget that there's a time where Marvel was willing to try new things.
Problem is
they had their epic shows.
Hit it right.
They were on Nicktoons, and then Disney bought them, and they went creatively stagnant.
Yeah, DC has two other animated movies coming out this year later. You got Injustice.
Oh, we need to talk about the Injustice movie.
And then you got Catwoman Hunted.
That's interesting, actually. That could be good. But Injustice, I was really excited for an Injustice movie until I started some information on it. No, I was like, oh no, because Injustice, people don't know, it's a video game series. If you haven't played it, do it. It's fun as hell. Really good story for a fighting game.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's like the fighting's can be a bit pain in the ass sometimes, but the story is great.
And the comics are also really good. And they're making a movie based off it. It's a storyline where Superman becomes evil after Lois Lane gets killed by the Joker and basically becomes a dictator. The game series had a mix of Kevin Conroy, Susan Eisenberg, what's his name? Who plays Superman? And
Sam something, I think.
I thought it was George something.
It could be. I know Tim Daly did the show.
No. Tim Daly didn't do Justice League.
Yeah, but he did the Superman show is what I meant, sorry.
Yeah.
Which I actually like his Superman a lot better than the guy they have in Justice League.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Why can't I find this? I mean, I can find the cast of the new game, but I can't find the cast of the. And anyway, it's about he takes over the world. It's super
George
fun.
Newberg.
Yep, George Newbern. Yep, you're right. So he's Superman. It's a ton of fun. Lots of like deep DC lore in both the comics and the game, actually. So if you want to explore the DC universe more, that's actually a good place to start. But unfortunately, what the movie's doing is it's recasting everyone. With Justin Hartley as Superman, Anson Mount as Batman, Laura Bailey as Lois Lane, Zach Cass and Oliver Hudson, Brian T. Delaney, a bunch of just normal random voice actors. Kevin Pollak is the Joker, which is kind of weird.
I mean, the Joker in the game wasn't any better.
No, that's true. But like, I was shocked too because like the voice acting was not something that really needed to be changed in my opinion, and it had me worried about what else they're gonna change.
Yeah, I know. Maybe they just want to separate it from the game. I don't know.
Because the comic's really good and the game's really good, and I don't want them to mess it up.
They're probably gonna mess it up.
Yeah, probably, which sucks. But I guess it's whatever. I'm kind of pissed.
It'll be interesting to see. I'm kind of interested on what comic, like, is it just the first season of the comic that they're doing?
Is it the game? Is it the game? Is it the comic? Because the game isn't really about, at least the first game isn't about the world where Superman takes over. It's like how it's about defeating him, whereas the comic explains the rise to power, which is really compelling. And Injustice 2 is, because Justice 1 has all the multiverse stuff where they get the other versions of the heroes to fight the evil versions of the heroes, whereas the sequel takes place solely in the world with the evil heroes and just plays directly off of that, and it's great. So I'm excited because, you know, in the games too, they only have characters that you can really play as. I'm excited for this movie to actually like expand the world a little bit more, but I'm also just kind of nervous that it's just going to be trash.
Hopefully it's good.
Hopefully, yeah. This is one I'll probably watch right away when it comes out.
Yeah, I'll be curious.
So maybe we'll do a movie watch on it or talk about it in a later episode. But that's whenever this actually comes out.
Yeah.
But that said, final thoughts on these movies. Just looking at the sales have gotten really weak over the years.
Oh, I'm sure.
I'm not shocked that just because the Monsters got canceled. It's one of the lowest grossing ones on here.
That's disappointing.
Same with Wonder Woman Bloodlines.
But I mean, that's the problem with like when you get the casual audience, they only like, it's why Batman's in so many of these. People want Batman or Superman.
Yeah, but Batman Hush did almost 3 times the amount of Wonder Woman Bloodlines. Batman Hush is a much worse movie. It looks like, just looking at this list, the ones not based like the same universe ones start off really well and slowly dwindle over time. But the ones based off just normal stories seem to always do well.
Well, that's because it's like, oh, they know the story, so they're like, I want to see it in live action or animation actually moving.
Okay, let's see here. Now, if you had to guess what the highest grossing one of these is, what would you pick?
Of all the ones we talked about, or just the new 52 kind of ones?
Of all the DC animated movies. I don't think we talked about this one that much. The answer will shock you.
Sub-Zero.
Okay, of the newer ones.
Oh.
I don't have data on Sub-Zero.
Oh, got it.
So starting with Superman Doomsday through Batman Soul of the Dragon, which one do you think has made the most money? According to Wikipedia.
Hush.
Wrong.
Huh.
The answer is Superman Doomsday.
Oh, wow.
With 12 million.
Wow. All the way
that
from there.
That has 12,553,000. Followed closely by Batman Under the Red Hood with 12,381,000. And then in third place with 11,036,000, Superman Batman Public Enemies.
Ugh.
And then in fourth place, down to 8 million, is Killing Joke. Yeah, that's a shocking list.
I did not expect that.
No.
I was thinking more of the ones based on well-known comics, but I guess Superman Doomsday is. I guess I didn't think one that old would still hold it.
But it did, and it more than doubled New Frontiers reported gross. Yeah, look at these two. Mostly directed by either Sam Liu or Jay Olivia.
Yeah, we need some new blood.
Well, really bad.
I think they just need to like either commit to the comic they're adapting or just take it out of a shared universe.
Yeah, but I would agree. I think that's the secret to going forward with these.
Like I don't mind changing minor, like in Batman Hush, isn't it? He fights Croc, but it's supposed to be Bane in the comics or something.
No, he does fight Croc in the comic, and he fights Croc in the movie.
Well, I thought they switched up the characters. Anyways, I don't mind if they switch out like minor things like that, but when you're changing like the whole reveal of characters and stuff, it just doesn't work.
I think DC needs to give them more money, and Warner.
That too.
I think what they desperately need is higher production value, higher production budgets. These need to look more professional than they currently do.
Especially the new ones they're doing. Like I said, I think they're going for a style, but the style looks cheap, and it didn't work for me.
No, it doesn't look good. It looks lazy. It looks cheap, even if it's not. I mean, Bruce Timm knows better than this, and DC knows better than this. Warner Brothers knows better than this. The people want higher quality animation, but unfortunately, they're kind of going downhill. I mean, we had blips of greatness recently. I've heard Long Halloween's really good. I don't really want to watch it, but I know I will eventually. I'm kind of waiting until they release the 2-pack that has all of them as one movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I always wait for the 2-parters, like watch them back to back.
Because I don't want to really spend $40 on 2 movies, but I'll spend like $30 on one big movie when they eventually release that, because it's going to be coming out eventually. But I'll keep watching them if I see stuff I like. I'm exhausted with the shared universe. I wanted to see them do more. Like you're saying, Long Halloween I should be hyped for, but the fact that it's part of the shared universe just makes me roll my eyes. Mm-hmm. I mean, I want them to do a Kingdom Come movie, but Bruce Timm has said that they would never make a Kingdom Come movie. Because Kingdom Come is known for its art style, which they could never emulate on a film for their budget. So he said that they would never be able to do it justice.
Well, at least he's admitting that.
Yeah, like Bruce Timm usually keeps it 100. Of all the execs that work in animation, like he's not Dave Filoni levels of business genius, and he does make mistakes, but he's pretty open and honest usually.
Yeah, this art style would be very hard to replicate, I think, in animation.
Or you look up Kingdom Come.
Yeah.
It is not easy to do. It's like Renaissance painting. It's a fantastic comic. If you've not read it, anyone listening just on YouTube, it's a must read.
Yeah.
It's probably I think most people say it's the greatest Justice League story ever written. But I love to see it as a movie. I don't think it's going to ever get made. I do trust Bruce Timm's telling the truth with that.
Maybe somewhere in the future where animation can be made to look like art styles.
Well, and you can take risks too. Like that's the thing. Like seriously, it's like Batman Killing Joke failing stopped them from taking risks.
Yeah.
And they need to take way more risks than what they've been doing. It's just the animation is getting boring. The stories are getting boring. We get some.
The voice acting's getting boring.
Yeah, the voice acting's all just mundane, normal bullshit.
Well, it's like ever since I forget her name retired, it seems like the voice casting has just been so.
Andrea Romano.
Yeah.
Yeah, when she left, the casting has just been garbage, or at least inconsistent. And she was starting to get inconsistent too with some of the stuff that she was doing.
Yeah, but didn't you say she was like losing her hearing? So I could kind of forgive that.
Yeah, she was losing her hearing. I mean, she was great. She's the unsung hero, not just of DC animation, but animation in general. I mean, she did the casting and voice direction for SpongeBob, DuckTales, like all of DC, all of Warner Bros. Animation. Like she's one of the most vital figures in 90s, 2000s animation. She does not get enough credit as she deserves.
Yeah, I mean, you think about all those shows and just how perfect the voice casting was.
And her directing style, getting everyone in the room all together and acting as an ensemble, and not picking actors based on name, but an actual voice acting ability, which is something that Marvel. When we talk about Marvel animation, we didn't talk about What If at all, which is currently going. What If, it's their alternate universe storyline, kind of a celebration of Marvel. It's to me, it's entertaining but completely pointless and worthless.
Yeah.
But the voice acting in that show is garbage.
Well, like you said, they're actors; they're not voice actors.
Yeah, that's the big thing, is they don't know how to voice act, and it shows because they're terrible. They're all just god awful. Like Benicio del Toro as the Collector is just garbage. Hilly Atwell is doing okay, but she struggles. Sebastian Stan as Bucky's
awful,
trash, and he's good in live action, but they can't voice act. And Marvel's obsessed with associating actors directly to characters.
Well, and they're what ifs. They're supposed to be alternate realities. You could get anyone in there to do somewhat of a close impression of these characters. I mean, Chris Evans isn't Steve Rogers in this, but the guy they got was great.
Yeah, Josh Keaton sounds just like him. It's uncanny.
I mean, that's the thing, is people always make fun of voice actors. Like, oh, they just sit in a booth and say lines. It's like, no, it's a lot more complicated than that.
Well, and the show is slightly less lazy looking than the other Marvel shows, but I kind of had that Star Wars Resistance art style style to it.
Yeah, it does. But I do. It's not nearly as bad as Star Wars Resistance.
No, it's. See, Marvel What If has the budget that DC really should be putting into their movies.
Yes.
And shows.
I do. I kind of actually like the art style of the What If. It's something new. It's something different.
If DC had that budget that What If has, their stuff would be amazing.
Yeah.
And I do have hope for Batman Kid Crusader, just because the talent involved with that is intriguing. With I think with Bruce Timm and Matt Reeves, and I think J.J. Abrams too.
Yeah, I think so.
All working on it. Like that could be a massive flop. It could also be something really good.
Let's hope for something good.
Let's hope that they're learning from what Marvel's doing and make something good. But I'm still nervous just because
I'm always going to be hesitant on certain things. I've been
heartbroken before.
Yeah, and they've kind of DC's slowly gone down in quality, so it's kind of like I hope to be surprised and it's actually good, but I'm going to go in skeptical.
They keep getting like their money and stuff taken away from them, and they've been able to like adapt to that before, but are slowly losing their ability to adapt to having less and less resources.
Like I say, at some point you need money. Mm-hmm. Can only cut corners so much.
Anyway, we've been talking for a long time about DC animation. Tell us your thoughts on DC animation. What are your favorite movies? What are your least favorite movies? What do you want to see done in the future? Let us know on YouTube or on our social media pages. Thank you so much for listening. If you want, I've scored all these movies we talked about on Letterbox. If you want to see my exact thoughts on all these movies, I'm Daha V on Letterbox. Our links to all of our Letterbox accounts are in our social media. Go check us out. And watch some of these movies too. If you like DC Comics, live action isn't the only thing that exists. These people are working hard on animation. Go check them out if you like their stories. If you complain that the movies aren't like the comics enough, go watch animation. You'll be pleasantly surprised and I think very happy. I think Justin, I think you would agree with me on that too.
Yep, animation is a great form of media. I know, like we said, Fidel doesn't care for it much, but it's like I love animation. It gives a whole different way of you can tell stories. He's talked
about actually that he might watch Long Halloween.
Ooh, that's interesting.
So we can maybe if we can convince him, we can maybe do an episode on that at some point in the near future.
Yeah, or it'll just be a short topic about it, depending on how good it is. But yeah,
we'll do something.
But animation is a great form of media. It allows you to do things you can't do live action wise, and I don't know. I always love animation, especially when it's new.
It allows you to get truly comic booky. But that said, thank you so much for listening. It's David Yanish and Justin Neitzel signing off. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to Idiot Plot. You can find us on Spotify, Anchor FM, Google Podcasts, and YouTube. Be sure to subscribe and hit the bell to get a notification every time we drop a new episode. Also, follow us on Facebook and Letterbox. The links are in the description.